I had been invisible in my family for 29 years. The youngest of three. The afterthought. The one who never quite fit into the polished, ambitious world my father had built. My name is Lena Whitmore. My father, Charles Whitmore, founded Whitmore Industrial Systems, a respected mid-sized manufacturing company known across the region. My older sister Victoria Whitmore was the crown jewel of the family. MBA from Wharton. Vice President of Operations at 26. Sharp. Ruthless. Brilliant. My brother Ethan Whitmore handled national sales. Expensive suits. Rolex watches. Penthouse downtown. He spoke in quarterly targets and acquisition strategies the way normal people talked about the weather. And then there was me. The daughter who chose art school. The disappointment, who became a freelance graphic designer instead of joining the family firm. At Thanksgiving dinners, Victoria would smirk and say, "Lena's working on another creative masterpiece." Ethan would chuckle. "Maybe one day she'll design our company logo." Mother would sigh politely. "Not everyone is meant for real business." Father barely looked at me anymore. The day I rejected his offer to start in the mailroom and earn my place, I stopped being relevant. Instead of climbing his corporate ladder, I accepted a scholarship to a prestigious art institute. He called it throwing my future away. What no one knew was that while they slept comfortably in their executive lives, I was working 3 jobs. Design during the day. Coding websites at night. Studying financial markets in every spare second. While they built careers inside Whitmore Industrial Systems, I was building something far more powerful. By 23, I had saved $50,000. I began investing cautiously. I made mistakes. I learned fast. I studied balance sheets the way Victoria studied operational charts. And I realized something shocking. I was good at this. Very good. By 25, I had $220,000. By 27, I crossed $1. 3 million. And then I made a decision that would change everything. I began quietly buying shares of Whitmore Industrial Systems. They never saw it coming. Whitmore Industrial Systems had gone partially public 6 years ago. Father needed expansion capital. He kept 42% ownership. Victoria held 11%. Ethan owned 9%. The remaining shares were scattered among investors, senior employees, and private equity firms. Father believed he still controlled everything. He didn't. For 2 years, I moved quietly. Through shell corporations. Through investment vehicles. Through layered acquisition entities with names no one would connect to me. Northbridge Holdings. Silvercrest Capital Group. Harlow Strategic Investments. Each one legally registered. Each one compliant with SEC regulations. Each one ultimately owned by me. I bought shares from retiring executives. From impatient investors frustrated with slow dividends. From minority stakeholders eager for liquidity. Position by position. Block by block. I leveraged my portfolio intelligently, never recklessly. Tech startups. Commercial real estate. A biotech swing that tripled in 18 months. I reinvested aggressively. By the time I was 29, I had deployed nearly $82 million into Whitmore Industrial Systems. And I owned 76.8% of it. More than double my father's stake. I controlled the board. I controlled major decisions. I controlled everything. And my family had absolutely no idea. The Christmas board meeting was Victoria's idea. A year-end executive strategy session, she called it. December 23, 10 a.m. core leadership only. When I walked into the executive conference room wearing jeans and a charcoal sweater, Victoria's expression hardened instantly. "Lena," she said slowly. "This is a business meeting." "You said family meeting." Ethan adjusted his cufflinks. "Family business meeting. There's a difference." Father sighed from the head of the table. "Let her sit. She can observe." "Observe?" I sat in the corner with my laptop. They discussed Q4 performance, projected margins, and a potential $60 million acquisition of a regional competitor that would make Whitmore Industrial Systems the dominant supplier in 3 states. It was bold. It was smart. And it required heavy financing. Victoria clicked through her presentation. "This acquisition transforms us." Ethan nodded. "VC partners are interested. We just need stable credit backing." Then Victoria glanced at me. "Lena, we are about to review confidential projections. You should probably step out." "I'm family." "You're not a stakeholder," she replied coldly. I looked at her calmly. "Yes," I said softly. "I am." Victoria folded her arms. "You're not a stakeholder," she repeated. Ethan smirked. "Unless you bought one ceremonial share online." I slowly turned my laptop toward them. "Not one share," I said calmly. 76.8%. Silence. The room didn't just go quiet, it froze. Father stood abruptly. "What did you say?" I rotated the screen fully so they could see the shareholder summary. Whitmore Industrial Systems ownership, 76.8% total capital deployed, $82. 4 million current market value, $97. 1 million owned through Northbridge Holdings Silvercrest Capital Group Harlow Strategic Investments. Victoria stepped closer. Her face drained of color. "This isn't real." "It's very real." Ethan grabbed his phone, opening the shareholder registry portal. I watched his expression change as he scrolled. "These entities," he muttered. "They are listed as majority positions." "All mine," I confirmed. Father's voice dropped to a whisper. "Since when?" "October," I replied. "Control shifted in October." "That's impossible," Victoria snapped. "You don't have that kind of money." "I earned it," I said evenly. "While you were climbing Dad's internal ladder, I was building my own portfolio." Ethan's jaw tightened. "This is manipulation." "It's investing." Victoria shook her head. "You can't just secretly buy up a company." "It wasn't secret. Every transaction was disclosed. You simply never bothered to look beyond the entity names." Father slowly sank back into his chair. 76%, he murmured. "Yes. Which means I control the board. Major votes. Including this acquisition you're planning." The implications landed heavily. Victoria's $60 million expansion required majority approval. My approval. At that exact moment, my phone buzzed. A message from Adrian Cole, my senior portfolio advisor at Ironvale Asset Management. "Miss Whitmore, credit institutions have been notified of the shift in controlling interest. Expect covenant reviews within hours." Almost instantly, Father's phone rang. He glanced at the screen. "First National Bank." He answered, stepped into the hallway. Through the glass walls, I watched his face shift, from confusion to shock. When he returned, his hand was shaking slightly. "They are reviewing our credit line," he said hoarsely. "Change in controlling ownership triggers reassessment." Ethan's phone buzzed next. Then Victoria's. "The venture firms," Ethan muttered. "They are pulling back. They say there's leadership uncertainty." I looked at them calmly. Markets move quickly. Victoria stared at me like she was seeing me for the first time. "What do you want?" she demanded. I met her eyes. "Respect. Respect," Victoria repeated, her voice trembling between anger and disbelief. "Yes," I said calmly. "Respect." Father rubbed his temples. Ethan paced near the glass wall, phone still in his hand. "This acquisition is critical," Victoria insisted. "It positions us as regional leaders. You've seen the projections." "I have," I replied. "They are strong." "Then approve it," Ethan said quickly. "If you really care about the company." I studied them for a long moment. "Interesting," I said quietly. "A few minutes ago, I wasn't part of this company. Now you want my approval." "That's not what we meant," Victoria snapped. "It's exactly what you meant." Father looked up at me. "Lena, this isn't personal. It's been personal for 29 years." Silence filled the room. Another buzz from my phone. Adrian calling. I placed it on speaker. "Miss Whitmore," he said professionally, "I'm receiving inquiries from 3 private equity firms regarding your controlling stake. One consortium is exploring a full buyout scenario. Preliminary valuation, $185 million. Victoria's breath caught. Ethan stopped pacing. Father's face turned pale. "That's above market," I observed. "They believe the acquisition strategy has upside. With their capital, they could execute immediately. Complete restructuring likely. New executive leadership. Meaning, my family would be removed. What would happen to current management?" I asked. "Standard practice, severance packages. Transition period. Then replacement." Victoria whispered, "You wouldn't." "I haven't decided anything." I ended the call. 3 pairs of eyes stared at me. "You're going to destroy everything Dad built," Ethan said bitterly. "No," I corrected. "I am making a business evaluation. That's what successful people do, right?" Victoria's tone shifted. "Softer now. Lena, if this is about feeling excluded, we can fix that." I almost smiled. "Feeling excluded?" I repeated. "You told me 10 minutes ago I don't belong here." Father finally spoke, his voice rough. "What do you want?" I looked directly at him. "I want acknowledgement that I'm not the family failure. I want to be treated as an equal. Not tolerated. Not mocked." Victoria nodded too quickly. "Of course. We respect you." "No," I said sharply. "You respect leverage." The room fell quiet again. Then Ethan's phone vibrated. "Reuters just flagged unusual trading activity," he muttered. I leaned back in my chair. "It's amazing," I said softly, "how quickly invisible people become visible when money is involved." By late afternoon, the situation escalated beyond family walls. Adrian Cole called again. "Miss Whitmore, media outlets are picking up on unusual trading in Whitmore Industrial Systems. The Wall Street Journal is preparing a story. Bloomberg and Forbes are following. Public attention is imminent." Victoria's face went pale. Ethan's grip tightened around his phone. Father sat frozen, staring at the table. "Wall Street?" Victoria whispered. "Already?" "Yes," I replied calmly. Word travels fast when controlling shares change hands. Especially when no one knew who actually owned them. Father rubbed his forehead. "This could ruin our reputation, or reveal the truth," I said. "The truth that I am as capable as anyone in this room. That I've built my own portfolio from scratch. That I earned control of this company fairly and legally." Victoria's lips trembled. "You're going to sell, aren't you?" I shook my head. Not necessarily. I'm evaluating my options. But I will not allow my family to dictate my decisions. That stops now. Ethan's voice was sharp. What about the acquisition we were planning? The competitor. It's ready to close, and that is why I must be involved, I interrupted. I am the majority shareholder. My approval is required. Victoria's eyes widened. You mean, all this time, you were in charge? I nodded. Effectively, yes. Since October. And now everyone knows. Banks, investors, the media, they'll all recognize the controlling shareholder is me. Another call came through, this time from a journalist. I put it on speaker. Miss Whitmore, the Wall Street Journal here. Can you comment on the reports about your control of Whitmore Industrial Systems and your plans for the company? I spoke slowly, deliberately. I'm still evaluating my options. As controlling shareholder, I will make decisions in the company's best interest. That includes employees, investors, and stakeholders. Any changes will follow legal protocols and strategic considerations. Your relationship with family management, the reporter asked. There have been rumors of tension. I looked directly at Victoria. That is an accurate assessment. I will make decisions that serve the company, including all leadership positions, if necessary. Click. Call ended. The room was silent. Every face frozen in shock and disbelief. Victoria whispered, almost pleading, This is a nightmare. Everything we've worked for. I am not here to destroy anything, I said firmly. I am here to ensure the company thrives. That requires strategic decisions. That requires accountability. That requires acknowledging that I am not invisible anymore. Father exhaled slowly. 29 years, he muttered. Yes, I said softly. 29 years of being dismissed, ignored, undervalued. That ends today. Adrian Cole's voice buzzed again. Miss Whitmore, there is a formal acquisition offer from Sterling Equity Group, $185 million for the entire company. They are ready to move immediately. Victoria gasped. Ethan's jaw tightened. Father looked stunned. Above market, I said quietly. But it's only one of the options on the table. And in that moment, I realized, I controlled the narrative. I controlled the company. And for the first time in my life, I controlled my family's perception of me. By the evening, the weight of reality had fully settled in the room. Victoria was pale, her hands trembling as she scrolled through the acquisition proposal on her tablet. Ethan sat rigid, jaw clenched, staring blankly at the conference table. Father remained silent, processing the fact that his youngest daughter, once dismissed as inconsequential, now controlled the fate of his life's work. I closed my laptop and spoke deliberately. I'm not selling. At least, not right now. I am keeping my position. I am approving the acquisition plan you proposed, Victoria, but under one condition. I will have a formal seat on the board. Full voting authority. No more sitting in corners. No more notes for the sidelines. I am the controlling shareholder, and I intend to act like it. Victoria's lips parted, searching for words, but none came. Ethan's grip on his phone tightened until the screen almost cracked. Father rubbed his temples. I also want company bylaws updated, I continued, to reflect the reality of ownership. And a formal apology from the executive team, in writing, delivered to all board members and department heads. They failed to respect a major shareholder for years. That stops now. There was a long, heavy pause. Then Victoria whispered, That's unusual. So is secretly acquiring 76.8% of your family's company without you noticing, I replied evenly. Father exhaled and nodded slowly. If this is how it must be, so be it. I picked up my phone and sent a final message to Adrian Cole, draft board restructure, and formal apology documents. Acquisition approved. I am taking control. Within minutes, the financial world started reacting. Banks recognized my controlling position. Venture capital firms paused negotiations. The media began to report on the sudden revelation of a hidden majority shareholder. Headlines began to circulate. Estranged daughter controls manufacturing empire, Whitmore Industrial Systems secret majority owner revealed, from invisible to in control. The rise of Lena Whitmore, Victoria whispered, almost to herself, we didn't see this coming. I know, I said quietly. Because you never thought I could. Father looked at me with a mixture of awe and remorse. I underestimated you for years. You did, I agreed calmly. And that is why I am here now. Not to destroy. Not for revenge. But to ensure that the company, the employees, and our legacy are protected by someone capable and determined. Ethan's face flushed with a mix of anger and disbelief. And the acquisition. I approve it, I said firmly. But on my terms. The company moves forward, but I decide how it happens. For the first time in my life, my family looked at me with a new understanding. It wasn't fear. It wasn't envy. It was recognition. Recognition that the daughter they dismissed had become something far more powerful than they could have imagined. And for the first time, I felt seen. Truly seen. Christmas Eve settled quietly over the city, but the storm in my family's boardroom had just ended. I sat in my small apartment, the hum of my laptop filling the room, watching real-time updates on Whitmore Industrial Systems. The stock price fluctuated wildly in private markets. News outlets were already covering the story. Lena Whitmore emerges as controlling shareholder. Estranged daughter turns $50,000 into $97 million empire. Hidden genius of Whitmore Industrial Systems revealed. My phone rang. It was Mother. Lena, she said softly, almost trembling, what's happening? Victoria called me crying. She says you might sell the company, everything your father built. I might, I said calmly, if it served the company. But I'm not selling. I am keeping my position and approving Victoria's acquisition plan, but on my terms. Board restructuring, bylaws updated, full authority acknowledged. Mother was silent. I continued, remember my art school graduation? You didn't come. My 30th birthday. I invited everyone. No one showed. Yet Victoria's achievements always had the family's full attention. She whispered, I see now. Yes, I said softly. I've been overlooked, dismissed, underestimated. That ends today. Not with destruction, not with revenge, but with control and respect. The next morning, I received the final documents from Adrian Cole. I signed off on the board restructure, the formal apologies, and the updated bylaws. Victoria, Ethan, and Father all received acknowledgement letters highlighting the importance of respecting shareholders, leadership accountability, and company culture improvements. In January, at the first official board meeting under my leadership, I sat at the table with my nameplate and voting authority clearly displayed. Victoria and Ethan were professional, polite, respectful. Father spoke softly but sincerely. I want to formally acknowledge Lena Whitmore as our controlling shareholder, he said. We are grateful for her guidance moving forward. It wasn't the emotional apology I'd imagined years ago, but it was respect. Real respect. Later, Father caught me in the hallway. Lena, I owe you more than I said in the meeting. A real apology, from me, as your father. I understand, I said. It will take time. But I'm willing to move forward. Whitmore Industrial Systems completed the acquisition Victoria had planned. Our market position expanded. Investors and banks were more confident knowing a competent, disciplined majority shareholder was at the helm. And I finally felt it, the invisible daughter was gone. I was no longer the family's overlooked mistake. I was the majority shareholder, the decision-maker, and the proof that diligence, intelligence, and patience can overturn decades of dismissal. Lena Whitmore, once invisible, had become unstoppable.